going to figure out a way to make it work, and you're going to actually use what might be a challenge to you for your betterment, you know what I mean? And I think that was something that I really tried to focus on this year as things were kind of all over the place. Everybody, this is Kaylani with the Wild Wahine, and I wanted to chat a little bit about 8 things that I learned this past year, 2021. I pretty much do this every year, and I did it last year. I was outside and I kind of had this beautiful visual of the ocean, and I did a voiceover on top of it, but it was raining all day today because it's makahiki season and it's just a lot rainier. So I wasn't able to get out there because I didn't want to get my phone wet or anything. So you have me here chatting with you about these 8 things that I learned, and they're all kind of interesting in their own unique way in 2021. And you know, from the lessons that I learned, I'm taking this knowledge with me into 2022. So I wanted to share that with you. Hopefully it can be inspirational for you, or you can glean something, or can spark something in you to potentially do a list like this. I would love to hear from you. What things you learned, what are some revelations that you had that you feel that were kind of fundamentally changing for you, or just kind of different, or even like a little bit quirky that just kind of is shifting you and kind of molding you into the person that you're becoming. So anyway, I want to start with my 8. So I'll start off with the first thing, and I have a little list here. And that is the value of partnership and friendship. And so as a person who is a lot more of an introvert, even though I think most people would say, what? You are not. I used to do a lot of acting, a lot of theater, a lot of like film and type of work. So there was a lot of externalization of my energy. And obviously I have a YouTube channel, and you know, like I'm talking to people all over the world about astrology and tarot and all of that. And it seems like, oh my gosh, like that would be a person who would definitely be more externalized and have this like network of group. I have the Wild Wahine, I have the Clubhouse group, but to be very honest, I've always been a person who did things a little bit more in isolation, and I loved kind of like starting things on my own. I never really needed permission to do that. I never waited around to have anybody, because usually I would just get the feeling to do something, and I'm a very kind of, you know, artistic and passion person. So as soon as the light is fired, I want to go do it. And if I had to like wait for someone to do it with me, that would just take away the fire, and then it would just be boring and I'd be chomping at the bit. So I would just do things. So I had an opportunity this year, actually a couple of times this year, to partner up with people and work with them and do readings. And like I said, I started the Clubhouse with the Wild Wahine, and that was just a really beautiful thing. It was something I was, to be very honest, was very nervous about. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work. Got a lot of Leo energy there. I love to be the boss. Like, am I a good sharer? What does that mean? You know, especially when it comes to business. And so it just was really an enlightening time for me. It worked out really well. I got to learn who I was in partnership with people, what my gifts are, what others' gifts are, honoring that and seeing how 2 people can really strengthen each other when they're working together, and how important communication is, and how important respecting boundaries is, and energy levels and all of those types of things. So I've just had like a lot of really beautiful partnerships, you know, over the course of 2021, and building community, and just kind of, you know, being in a space where people are able to share and feel comfortable. And that was just really like a blessing for me, and really sweet, and something that I kind of always like was a little bit nervous about, you know, kind of involving myself in, that I'm really glad that I did. So the second thing that was really important is how to thrive when you're planted in uncomfortable soil. So I think this is something that so many of us have experienced really over the last 2 years, because of everything that we've been dealing with in the world with the Rona and everything else. It has not been our perfect medium, right, to be planted in. We have been planted in places that are too dry, too wet, too much sun, not enough sun, and we've been really trying to figure out how we can thrive in those situations. So I want to say, like, for this year, for me, it really was like a test in some ways, like I think it's been for a lot of people, and how do I, you know, thrive in these situations, which is very different than surviving. I want to say surviving basically means you have all of the basic needs met, and you're kind of like wiping your brow a lot, and you're treading, and you're just keeping yourself above water, and your adrenals are probably like blown, and you're just always in maybe even a constant state of anxiety anxiety, but you're like, I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, I still have it, I'm still okay. To me, that's survival mode. So I know I can do that, you know, like I have the ability to do that. I've done that before many times in my life, but how to thriving to me is a little bit less effort. It means that like everything is going to be okay. You can actually take deep belly breaths and not shallow chest breaths. You're going to figure out a way to make it work, and you're going to actually use what might be a challenge to you for your betterment, you know what I mean? And I think that was something that I really tried to focus on this year, as things were kind of all over the place, as they were a lot in 2020. Like, okay, we know what we're dealing with. I understand the nature of things. How can I thrive in this? How can I find those moments of levity? How can I find those moments where I'm making this work, even though it feels like, wow, it's really challenging and it doesn't feel like it can work? So I think that was like a lesson for myself, and how important it is to kind of shift the focus in thinking and think about thriving as opposed to thinking about surviving. The third thing that was really, really important to me is the importance of flexibility, you know? And as a person that has a lot of fixed sign placements, and for those of us who have fixed signs, we know, and those who don't know, like, we don't like a lot of change all the time. We kind of very steady people. We start something, we do it, and we stick with it. You see it through to completion. It definitely is a long-term, you know, type of goal-oriented energy. It's a long-distance runner energy. It does not like to shift down or up sometimes. And so the need for mutability, the need for flexibility was important, because this, you know, last 2 years really, but especially this year, you know, hands you a lot of different things. And if you're doing the same thing that you were doing before and you're super inflexible, then you'll just break, you know? So I had moments where I really had to be like bamboo, you know, I couldn't be koa in that sense, like big, strong, and, you know, inflexible, but really, really strong. There were times where I had to think more like bamboo, be more flexible, sway a little bit more, bend a little bit more, so that I wouldn't break. And that's really important. And it's hard sometimes, especially when you naturally are a person who, you know, has that level of strength, and what that means, and between like how you're dealing with like control, because that's another thing. Like when you control something and you have it and you hold it, you know, flexibility means you're kind of letting go and you're releasing control. You're allowing like other things and other people to kind of sort of, you know, step up and take the wheel, so to speak. And that can be really, really hard, but it was a really good lesson, and it was really important. And I can really see, and you know, where I needed that in my life, and that's definitely something that I'm going to keep as I move forward. So the other thing that I learned that was really important, number 4, is nature as nurture. So deeply, deeply, deeply important for me. I think there were times this year where things were really unknown, or kind of a little out of control, or just deeply emotional with everything that's going on, or just processing everyone, you know, as a person who does, you know, natal chart readings and tarot readings for people. And, you know, there's a lot of energy that comes my way. I hold like a container for that energy. And sometimes it can just be overwhelming. And especially, you know, when you're just a person that like picks up energy a lot, and you're an empathic person, you're dealing with your own things, and then you're dealing with your family's things, and you're dealing with your friends' things, and then you have like all the other people. Sometimes it's just, whoa, it's so much. I'm holding so much. I need to drain and refill the well. And nature is that for me. And it's always been that for me, but just to know that that's deeply something that I need, and to be able to go out and do that, to be able to go jump in the ocean and just kind of cleanse in the salt water, because it's purifying and it heals and it cleanses, or to be able to just like go into the forest and like breathe the air, or to just, you know, play in my garden. You know, I have like a little tiny garden on my lanai, but still, you know, just to be able to put my hands in soil, to go out there, to pet some goats, to just play in the sunflowers, like whatever it was, when I just felt like, boy, it's getting heavy and it's thick. I just need to kind of like get out and breathe and just connect and just be like, look at the mountain, feel it. Like I just needed to have that to just charge back in. And so for me, nature is so very important for that. It's like the top way that I refill, and nothing can fill that up for me, other than, like eating well, putting good things into my body, having good liquids and getting good sleep. But I would say like those three are so deeply important for my like basic functioning needs. If those things are not filled, then it's hard to kind of sort of function. So I just understood how nurturing it was and really made an effort to go do that. And that's 100% something that I'm going to be taking into 2022. The fifth thing I also learned was the power of the 3 C's. And the 3 C's are confusion, conspiracy, and control. And so this isn't something that like I learned and that I'm wielding in any kind of way. This is just me understanding and respecting how powerful they are in our world. Confusion, when we hit some of those really gnarly Neptunian transits, and just in general with Neptune being in Pisces, there is just a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion about the information that we have. There's confusion about what's really going on. There's explanation about that, which also includes a lot of conspiracy and things that are lies, which just can create more confusion and make it chaotic. There's a certain level of control that's with that too, because again, when you think you have information and you have the story, then it makes you feel like you're in control. And that's one of the things that you want when you're in a confused state, is control, because confusion is a lack of control. It means I don't know what's going on. I am not in control of the situation. And so therefore, if I can at least isolate who is, if it's not me, and if I don't feel like I can be, then I have a modicum of control because I know, and then I can try to control them or gain back power and control, because I think it's something that I, didn't really understand the relationship between people when they're confused and what they try to do to gain some clarity and control, and how toxic, to be very honest, that can be. And so it was something that I really realized, people were willing to believe things that are just absolutely not true, or partially true, or that they feel is true because it helps them, it just makes them feel better, but it definitively is not, like factually it's not. Again, that's where the flexibility comes in, which we talked about earlier, in being able to navigate things, and how difficult that is when you're in a state of confusion, when you don't know what's going on, when things are changing all of the time, when you're asked to believe one thing and then suddenly it switches and you have to believe another thing, and your gut is telling you one thing, everyone else is telling you something else, this other person is saying something else, and what is the answer? And just how easy it is to feel kind of out of just a loss of control and a lot of anxiety in regards to that. And I feel like just understanding that from a different perspective has made me be able to like be better for people, a better reader, a better astrologer, a better parent, a better partner, a better friend, a better all of those things, because it's been a really tough and confusing time. So I have a lot of respect for clarity, right? Like clarity is something that's deeply important to me, being like a very solar being as I am in terms of my chart. So clarity and seeing things clear is important to me. And so states of confusion can be just frustrating. And, I just have a healthy sense of like what that means, and like how we can help each other collectively gain more clarity so that we're not in this state of confusion, because confusion can be so catastrophic. That, I guess that's another C, and it makes it people afraid, and where you have fear, you have, as they say in Star Wars, the dark side, right? So, it's the path to the dark side. So, so I definitely like can see that, and I am handling that differently right now. So the number 6, I think, is really important because it's an honest assessment of your well-being. I think this is so critical for so many people, because it's really hard sometimes when we are ourselves, right? We're experiencing life, we have emotions, we're connecting with people, we're connecting with situations, we're doing things, we're getting feedback, and we're kind of sort of going through all of that. It's hard to step outside of that and look at yourself outside of yourself and have a true assessment of what's going on for you. I've seen this so much with people, and just having a difficult time really understanding how they feel and what's going on. So I feel like for me, one of the ways that I can truly do that is through my journaling practice, because I can see how I'm feeling. It's the one space, and definitely honesty is really important to me, but it's the one space for myself where I feel like I'm going to be completely honest when I write in here. Like, so everything that's written is really coming from where I am right now. No judgments on it. I don't think it should be better. I should feel better. Why am I feeling like this? I just pour exactly how it is that I feel down there. And I feel like I've been honest with myself, and I can see it, and I can day to day see how I feel, see what's going on, see how I'm handling it, and all of that. So it's been really important to me. Like, for years I've had this, kind of morning practice where I'm, kind of pouring out these pages, and that's just been invaluable because I really know what's going on and I really know how I feel. Now, if I didn't have that practice, and for many years I didn't, it was really hard for me to assess things, because I could talk myself into whatever feeling. I would think that things were okay and they weren't. I would have issues with people that were friends or partners or business or whatever it was, and then I didn't really exactly know what was going on. Is it me? Is it you? Is it all those things? And just that level of confusion makes it really hard for you to be responsible for your feelings or for you to make positive choices, because you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know how you feel. I also have something interesting. I have a little picture of one of my favorite tarot cards, and it's no secret that my very favorite tarot card is the Nine of Pentacles. And so I have her up on this little, tiny little wooden easel. And on that, I have a little clipping that I found in a newspaper that said, "Are you having fun?" And so I love having that, because at the end of the day, I'm always asking myself, okay, I did all of these things and but am I having fun? Are you having fun? It's a question that I'm asking myself. Can you find something that's fun in that? Where is the joy? Where is the pleasure? Where is the fun with all that? It's a very Venusian thing, but it helps me kind of sort of check in with how I feel. I'm like, oh, how? And it's not like a pressure that every day, all the time I have to be having fun, because we all know sometimes we're just got to put our heads down and do the work, right? Or sometimes it's just a repetitive thing, and it's very mercurial. You're like, okay, I have to run errands, I have to clean up, I have to do, sometimes it's not about having fun and massive creation and connection. But I love to have that, because I always tend to glance at it when I'm just under pressure, when I'm stressed out, when I'm like, oh, I have to do this, I have to, and then I'm saying, checking in, am I having fun? Is this fun? Is this necessary? Is this something, where is the fun in this? Where is the downtime that I'm having? And that's kind of really important to me. So it helps me check in with myself with how I really feel, with me being honest with myself, because when you're honest with yourself and you're honest about the way that you feel, and you're able to feel all of your feelings, then you're kind of making better choices. You're collecting, decent people and good people in your life. When you're not honest with yourself and how you feel, especially if you're in relationships, especially if you're in your job or in a creative field or any kind of partnership or with your family or whatever, it's hard to navigate. It starts with you being honest with yourself. So just an encouragement for that for you guys. And that was something that I think was really important, because there's so many things that were happening in 2021 that was making me feel so many different ways. It was deeply important for me to check in with myself in terms of how I was really feeling. And one of the ways, like I said, to do that for me is the journaling practice. So number 7 is also really important. Number 7, I figured out not at the beginning of the year. I think I've always thought about it at some point, but somewhere in the middle of the year, it became intentional. And that was to not put more weight on myself and to lighten my load. So we knew that we were going through a difficult time. We know how things are in the world. We know how the challenges that we've had some really gnarly transits that's brought up a lot of difficult things. We've had experienced loss of people, loss of work, loss of money, loss of homes, loss of, there's so many things that people have experienced that has been so difficult. And when you know that you're going through a difficult time, and sometimes you don't, sometimes it's a very Uranian thing, boom, suddenly it's a challenge in front of you, or it's an eclipse and something snatched away and you're like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. But for the most part, after leaving 2020 and it being such a challenging year, we kind of had a heads up, and we knew, at least astrologers and those who follow as astrologers knew that 2020 was going to be a little gnarly. You know that the challenge is coming. So the important thing for me was to not add on to that. How can I simplify things and take drama out of my life, dramatic people, toxic things that are not healthy, things that are not good for me, what are things I can let go? Like, am I gonna die on this like hill about something that's like totally not important when the whole world is in chaos and people are hurting and there's all kinds of crazy things? Like, is this really the thing that I really want to like stand on and think it's a big deal? Like, you know, and so I really had to do some deep thinking about that, and and just really kind of unpack. Like, I'm not an emotional pack mule, and neither are you. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone and everything on your shoulders, you know? And it's important that if you know you're going through a difficult time, you're about to climb a mountain of some sort, right? You have the mountain in front of you, whatever that mountain is. You know, one of the things that you want to do is you want to pack light, right? You're not going to pack all the heavy stuff. You know, can you leave something here? You can always come back for it. Maybe somebody can come bring it up to you. But if you know you have like a journey ahead of you, you want to pack tight and light, you know? And for me, emotionally, it was deeply important to be able to do that this year and to not take on extra drama, emotion, you know, toxicity and all of those things that would just make an already challenging upcoming year with everything that was going on in the world and even just in life to make it more. That just was something that I was like totally uninterested in. So, and it's like a life thing for me now. I'm like, yeah, we don't need that, because life is going to present all kinds of challenges to you. And that's like the beauty, I think, a lot of astrology is, you know, we go through these cycles, we go through this wheel, you know, and so we're always going to be hitting, you know, squaring, opposing Uranus. We're always going to have eclipses. Like, life will bring you adequate fun drama and all of those things to shake you up, to kind of sort of spit you out, to kind of like bring you something, a surprise, all, and you know, that's wonderful. It brings its own thing. If you're living it, which we all are, but if you're living it with intention and you're doing it, it's going to bring you that. So you don't have to like add to that and make it even more challenging, even more difficult, even more toxic. That's just something that you don't have to do. You can give yourself the gift of a light backpack. And I encourage that for everyone. So we're closing this out with number 8. And I love this one, number 8, and I think it's important. And it's not like a very active thing. I think it's something that we all do, but I just think it's something that we can be a little bit more intentional on. And that would be I learned how important the gift of reflecting and reflection is. So not just reflecting, which is kind of sort of what I'm doing with this video, not just reflecting on my life, but just reflecting to other people, like holding a mirror up to someone else and letting them know how amazing they are, how far they've come, and just reflecting someone's goodness back to them, how important that is, and also how important it is for you to do that for yourself. So with the Wild Wahine Club that I have on Clubhouse, you know, we've just had a benefit of having a really beautiful community on there, folks that join us every Wednesday, and we're doing readings to them, we're talking about things, we're talking about herbs, and we're talking about like healing our minds and our bodies and our spirit and experimenting and just all that kind of stuff. If you're not part of it, you definitely want to join, because it's a really beautiful space for us. And I'm going to be extending that actually and having my own membership platform that will be opening up in 2022. So I'm deeply excited about that. But what's been really wonderful is to be able to see people where we started, you know, and then like 6 months later where they are and the level of growth and how we all kind of like were rooting for each other and holding each other accountable and just reflecting back to each other the beauty that was within ourselves. And I think sometimes that's hard when we're going through a collective thing, when people are at each other's throats, when we're not getting along, where we don't even agree on what's happening in the world. It's hard for us to be nice. It's hard for us to have that aloha spirit, as we call it here in Hawaii, and it's harder and harder to find that. Come 2022, it's going to be even a little bit more challenging for us to find that. So reflecting back to people, being a mirror to someone, reflecting back where they've come, cheering them on by letting them know that you see them from where they've been and where they are right now, and also doing that for yourself. And that goes back to the journaling practice, when you're able to kind of look back on pages months ago where you said you wanted this thing, or you really were challenged with this and you weren't sure how you were going to do it, and then you see now you were able to do it, and what was a lesson in that, and how did you survive that? So then the next time you go through something challenging, you can look back at the time where you kicked its ass before, and you can use that energy for the future. And so I just think reflection is important. It's important for us to reflect to ourselves. It's important for us to reflect to each other, and it's just invaluable. And it's something that I was really intentional about this year, because I kind of sort of saw it, because I had this community, and it's definitely something I want to take into 2020 and be like even more intentional, because, you know, we need to be cheerleaders for ourselves ourselves, we need to be cheerleaders for each other, because there's a lot of energy out there and there's a lot of challenges right now that we're going through that don't even have anything to do with like the global things, but just every day in our lives, and then also the other outside things that come in. And so it's just lovely when we can have cheerleaders, because some of us, are not, some of us don't have people that are that. We don't have family that's that. Some people don't have any family at all, or they have family that they can't connect to. So, doing that for someone, I think, is just a beautiful gift. It's just something really beautiful to kind of sort of pay forward to them. And that's kind of sort of how I'm wrapping up my 8 things that I learned for this year. So thanks for spending this time with me. I hope some of this was like really, spoke to you in some ways. I hope you're able to like get something out of this that you can apply to yourself, for the upcoming 2022. I'm really excited about this next year. I think, we're going to have a lot more higher highs than we did for 2019 and 2022. We're also going to have some challenges, because that's the name of the game, right? That's life, and that's what we're doing. I will be doing a deep dive into the astro forecast for 2022. If you want to join, I will have links below for that. It's going to be on January 9th. And if you're not able to attend live, it will be recorded, so then you can purchase it then and you can watch it. And it's just a wonderful thing to have. We're going to go through the whole year, and you're going to get a calendar that talks about all the kind of important points, the retrogrades and the eclipses and things like that. And then you can just kind of sort of listen and tune in as you're going through the year, because we're just going to cover like some of the major points, and what are going to be some like positive days, and what are going to be some days that will be a little bit more challenging for some of us. So you have that. If you want to do an even deeper dive, of course you can book a natal chart reading with me, and then we will be able to do all of that and really like lay your birth chart up against that, and so we can see exactly where that's going to be hitting you and what areas in your life, and kind of what you can shore up in terms of your energy for that. So anyway, thanks so much for spending this time with me. I hope you all have like a wonderful new year, as we're bringing in this kind of new energy. We're starting this new year off with this Venus retrograde, which is the energy that we've been in. And definitely you should watch my Venus retrograde video, because it breaks down everything. It's really important, because we're still going to be going through that for a while, and just kind of sort of what's going on with Venus in the upcoming year. And then we also will be having on the 13th a Mercury retrograde. So we're kind of stepping back, right? We're starting taking a few steps back before we can go forward. So I think that's an important energy, and we're going to talk about all of that in the 2022 forecast. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Have a wonderful year. I'm just rooting for all of us, really, that we learn a lot of things, and that we have a lot of joy and a lot of pleasure, and that we're able to navigate the difficult things together and united, and with love, and with openness. And so with that, just have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.